What is good, Trader SQ85 tribe? All right, let's get into it. So I wanted to walk you through how to enter off of the 4 hour, um, the prep, the 4 hour prep. I'm gonna walk you through one of the tiny mistakes I made last week, but here's how you can navigate it. So Friday, June, was it the 5th? Um, Friday, June 5th, I did jump into puts early because, um, and I'll show you as I get to the lower time frames. Um, the 4 hour went off at exactly 6:30, and I decided to jump in because during my pre-market analysis, I could see that the pre-market, we had everything lined up on the lower time frames to give me a move to the downside. Okay, so let's just go ahead and mark this level, right? So when the 4 hour alert goes off, I mentioned that it went off exactly at 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You're gonna wanna, if you know, I would say there's different ways, right? So I took the risk, but the safest thing to do is um, to mark that level, right? So I'm going to show you how I do that here. Mark the bottom of this level right here. And when it happens, when you hear that 4 hour, oh, I know what's happening. Okay, it's because I have my drawings for my buy above and sell below levels, and so it's not going to show up right now. Okay, so let's just memorize this line right here. So 285.21, right? So at 7 o'clock, that also was giving a 1 hour um, breakout, right? So the breakout is this red area right here, which is part of the formula, right? So you have prep, you have some crossovers happening, and then my stuff fires after a sequence of order blocks, fair value gaps, re-entry onto order blocks, and then another crossover, right? So, and but this part here is letting you know that we're getting ready for entry. So what you would have done is, even though it's 6:30 and you see the 4 hour, you're going to be patiently waiting. You're going to be patiently waiting. I also want to encourage you to look at the video right before this one, because we had hit 300% on the weekly level. So now you're starting to drill down on time frames. Okay, so if you hit 300% on IWM specifically, because it moves a little bit differently on QQQ, and SPY was just not, wasn't set up the same. But so then when you see that 4 hour and you've been waiting for puts all along, um, it's go time, baby. So you're gonna mark this level right here, at the bottom of, so same exact level, 285.21, right? And when you see this confirmation of breakout on the next candle, this is where I got myself faked out, but I wanted you guys to catch it because I caught it just a little bit after, because I've been doing it on the smaller time frames, but I just completely forgot. So here it is. It's this would have been 9 o'clock, but I'm going to show you an even better example of entry. So this would have started to form right here. These two EMAs, this is the fast EMA and this is the slow EMA. These are both 200s, and I decided to plot both of these because some people, you can see, they like to bounce off of the fast EMA. Some people like to take action at the slow EMA, or the fast EMA is purple, slow EMA is the red one, right? 200 SMA. Okay. So what happened was at 7:30, I was trying to ride the puts back down, and I got caught up in this and gave my profit back. I sure did. Yes, I did. And what I realized is I should have waited um, for price to basically come back here. So let me see. Let me go back here. I'm gonna show you, and it gets better, right? So this is 2521, right? So 285 down here, 21. So somewhere around here, I got faked out on this up thing, right? So yes, technically you could wait for the 30-minute, which would have fired. It would have fired much later, but I'm going to show you something else, right? So it would have fired here, and you would have entered here. This would have been your stop loss. I like to use the super fast CMA right here as a guide. Some people like to use like the 8 and the 9s that are up here, but I like to use the 4 CMA. And you have your own rhythm for how you like to get in and out of stuff. I feel like this is a little bit more aggressive, and sometimes you can get faked out, especially like here it would have opened above this fast CMA. But so here you would have entered here, and this would have been at, just bear with me here. Here. You would have gotten in here at 9:30, right? And then you would have just held until you hit 100%. That would have been at 11. So you got to be patient, because remember that 4:30, that 6:30 at the 4-hour put alert went off. But check this out. So then you would have noticed on the 15-minute, if you had just been patient, we're almost done here because I want to keep these short, but once you get the hang of it, you'll have an idea of how long you need to wait and what you need to look for on the different time frames, right? So here, on the 15-minute, you would have been waiting for, I apologize, my computer was fine earlier. Okay, so here you would have had the alert trigger here at 8:30. It would have played around with these stop loss areas. But the other thing too is when I'm trading, you're going to see that I have buy above, sell below levels. So we're only looking for puts below that level. So we were below the sell below level. So I was holding with more confidence because I knew that we had downside. I knew that we were waiting for lower time frame to kick in. And so I would have held through that. And then here you also see we're respecting that super fast EMA, but I like to respect the levels. And so this would have fired here. This would have popped up here. You would have gotten an alert if you set your alert for 8:30, right? So remember, 4-hour alert, hey, we're going to the downside, goes off exactly at 6:30. And I was getting a little impatient because I had written some of it down, and I got caught up in this here at 7:30. And I was like, that's a pretty aggressive move to the upside of what is going on. I don't want to hold to the drawdown, and I just closed my computer and I went for the day. But knowing what I know now, it's like if I had just been a little bit patient, I would have gotten my setup, and here it's showing if I had held till 8:30 and then hold with confidence, we could have held all the way down to, I like to be conservative 100%, and then let your runners run, looking to exit if we open above that fast CMA. That would have been at 200% there. But we're still, for some people who are holding for the 8 and 9 EMAs, you would continue to hold even up and, even down through here, and just had a really nice run to the downside. But check this out. So on the 5 minute, you so I just really want us to be prepared for the next time that this happens. So on the 5 minute, check this out, and I don't want this to be too long, but I hope you're getting the point. And then this happens on the smaller time frames as well. Let's see. So again, just remembering that 6:30, I, I did get impatient. I felt like there were other things I was looking for more downside, including I actually waited for a candle to close below the sell below level. But it didn't. The sequence had not set up yet, so I'm getting in thinking that okay, we opened below this level, and then I got caught in that pullback, and then in hindsight I was like, yeah, I did not wait for the sequence um, of technicals to play out, and if I had just been patient and waited, what does that look like? So here on the 5 minute, the put indicator, let me see. Yeah, I've been really doing a lot with my computer today, so it's slowing down just a tiny bit. But this would have fired at, okay. This would have fired at, let's see here. I want to make sure. This would have fired at 8:05, right? And so you're just patiently waiting. You're seeing all of this dropping down. You're probably feeling some FOMO. But the technicals for re-entry in terms of the proper pullback and crossovers and order blocks, fair value gaps, all of that comes into play here. You get your entry. This would have fired here. This would have fired here. Ooh, I feel like I want to make this a little bit bigger. And now, mind you, I did a trial run right before I started recording. So we're just going to try to push through this real quickly. I hope you're getting the point. Oh my. Okay, I mean, that works. So it would have fired here. Let's see. It would have fired on this one. So the conditions are met here. And then you would have entered here. You would have had a little bit of a pullback. But again, you're holding because with more confidence because you're below the sell below level. You have the 4 hour, and you understand that the lower time frames are now going to start to kick in, and so you're holding with more confidence for downside. And so, I always say take profit at the 30%, take profit at the 50%. But you can see here we're just when it hits, right? And so we straight through 100%, straight through 200%, 300%, and 300% on the previous video tutorial, you're going to see same thing too. Every time we hit 300%, yes, can there be more downside? Absolutely. But here you're going to see that we had a major pullback. And so that happens on the weekly, it happens on the daily, it happens on the 15-minute, it happens on the 5 minute. So just keep that in mind. We're always going to have some type of pullback. And then here, for people who would have stayed below the 800s, I'm still learning how to hold for longer and stuff. But, as long as you stayed in, your stuff below the 8 and the 9 right here, you would have continued to hold the downside. Here is where I realized that part of my error, because on the 3 minute, I mentioned how this went off at 8:05. Look at the 3 minute. So you can wait for the 3 minute to give you confirmation to the downside. You just have to be patient. And I know it can feel a little difficult, especially like on a day like Friday where, let me see, where am I on this thing? I'm so close. We're almost done. Yeah, my computer is kind of overheating. This is gonna kind of blow your mind a little bit. And I was watching it and I was like, oh man, but I did not want to overtrade. I wanted to respect my rules. And I knew at that point that yes, I realized something a little bit, you know, I'm kind of glad that I did get faked out because I wouldn't have been able to explain it the way that I'm doing it now. So it's just part of what comes with the game. But as with anything, you know, like I always try to collapse the timeline for you guys, so that you're not having to spend as much time as I am, trying to figure out the stuff. And I also, you know, like there's other indicators I fell in love with along the way, but it's like you have to understand how they move. And so I just felt like I wanted to do tutorials for my indicators so you can just get a bit. I wish, yeah, I have my few favorite indicators, but yeah, just trying to talk through and how this is. Here we go. We're so close. Come on. Oh, this is important. So again, I will do another tutorial on how I do my sell below, buy above levels. And here's the thing. So the we would have gotten an indicator for calls to the upside at 7:54, but it was a fake out. I got faked out like right around, I want to say like I got in like right around here. Yes, I remember this. I got in at 7:27, and so it started to come down. We were at the sell below level, and I want to say the line was right here. And for the sell below level, no, I think the sell below level was much higher. But regardless, I got in here. I held for the 5 minutes. I was waiting for more downside, and then I got out here when the candle opened above these EMAs. Um, and I still think it was the right move in hindsight because you don't want to give back all your profit. You know, if you didn't get out there, you would have gotten out at this VWAP. These blue lines here are the VWAP. And what I want to caution you with too is there's higher probability setups, right? So you would have seen this for calls and thought, oh, okay, we're getting ready to go to the upside. But remember, we were at the sell. Of course, Bruno, that's another factor. We're so close. Let's just push through. Um, Hold on 1 second. Okay, let's just push through really quick. We're so close. So, um, you would have could have gotten faked out here, but again, when I show you how to do, if we're below the sell below level, we're just looking for puts. We're not trying to get into calls, and so here, this you would have prevented this fake out, right? And then, sure enough, it took out these people because the setup does happen, but we were in the sell below level. And so then here, this is what was so interesting. The conditions, the sequence of conditions were finally met at 8:06. And this is 8:09 on the 3 minute. This, my indicator does really well with the 3 minute, the 5 minute. 15 minute, I might do a separate tutorial on that one, but it's the same in the sense that, same as how you look at the 4 hour, in the sense that you have to wait for the lower time frame. So the 15 minute is a little bit more volatile for me and my trading style. So when the 15 minute call or put goes off, wait for the 3 minute and the 5 minute to also line up and then take the matching, call or put to the downside after the 15 minute. Like don't just jump in off of the 15 minute right away. So here on the 3 minute, you can see that you could have entered with confidence. The alert for puts would have gone off at 8 8:09, and it has the slightest amount of pullback, um, very little pullback, and then you would have taken your profit exactly at 30%. Like that's one thing about my indicator. Like I study the patterns, and it always fascinating to me to see how precisely it hits those levels. Um, but yeah, let's see. And so I always recommend, and I think when I was getting the hang of it, it's like I just know that I'm growing my small account. When it hits 30%, take my 30% and just like breathe and just walk away. But the more my confidence grows with it, um, then and understanding like especially with the 4 hour or what a healthy pullback looks like on the then the confidence grows. So then a 50% is also another very strong take profit level. Here we had more continuation to the downside and then 50% retest. We stay below the 8 and the 9 EMA here. Um, here. Yeah, we opened above. So for me, I would have like gotten out here anyways. But like I said, once I develop my confidence, I can do like the the institutions that kind of hold this 8 and 9 level, and hold for more downside until we hit 100%. And then it's so cool because that's on the lower time frame. So we have a snowball effect where it's like the 3 minute starts to fire at 8. Um, was it 8:09? Yeah, we said 8:09, and then the 15 minute, the 5 minute would have fired, and then the 15 minute, and so at that point you're just holding your ground and letting it, you're taking profit at these key critical levels. What level is this right here? 100%. So there you should have already gotten a healthy pullback, and then here you also see how it engages with the 200%, and then when it hits 300% on the 3 minute, my little Bruno gets fussy. It's almost his bedtime, actually, almost to the T. So this is 300%, and then you start to see even more pullback here. And then, of course, Friday was one of those days where we just had, a lot of downside and stuff that you just want to continue to be responsible. I think when we come back and look at the 1 hour, I think you get the point. I'm going to stop the video here at this point, but I hope that that was helpful. How to use the 4 hour, and you can wait for the 3 minute confirmation. Yes, it can be 2 hours out for the conditions to be met. It can be sooner than that. And then when I show you how to do, if we're below the sell below, you're not taking calls or anything else below that level. We're waiting for puts, and it can be 2 hours, so 6:30, 7:30, 8 o'clock can feel like nothing, 8:09, and then we stay in there and we can hold for longer. So I think my thing is, when those 4 hour alerts pop up, we're gonna eat steak. Um, the 4 hour had gone off 3 other times, 2 other times this week, and I kind of watched it throughout the day. And of course, calls they take the stairs up, puts take the elevator down. But I want to say on both days, the if you had held till end of day, it would have been like an $80 contract go to like $300. Whereas with this one, it was like 600. No, it was like at one point it was 600%, and then another point it was like 1,000%. But I feel like if you're really practicing risk management the way that you need to, um, you know, and at some point understand how to like just really leave your runners until the end of the day, then you're being on the conservative side, right? So here at this point, you're like just 300%. And then at that point, you have that one more runner. Like here, you can see how it's respecting I like the 4, but it's staying along the 4, staying below the 4. And then here it finally opens above the 4. But we're still below the 8 and the 9. So you can hold a little bit longer, but then you would have still got stopped out here, candle closed right below one of these 8 or 9 EMAs, and then opens above here. So it's just about the same. And at that point, how greedy are you going to be? You would have held for this. Um, you would have gotten out here, or you would have just gotten out here anyways when price opens above the 8 and the 9 anyways, and it would have been like 10, 15 minutes later, you know. Of course, if you're looking at the 5 minute. But yeah, I hope you get the idea of like how you start to drill down on the time frame. When we see the 4 hour alerts, we're gonna eat. It's gonna be the same thing when we look for downside, right? Oh, there was another thing. So let me. It's not gonna let me be great. I will try to explain it. So when the 4 hour went off at market open, usually that first impulse, I know it's gonna try to hit some key level, and it hit the fast EMA on the 1 hour. So I took a market open, which is not ideal, but I usually like to wait at least 5 minutes. But I had traded that setup before, and so I knew. Let's see if it's gonna let me. It's not gonna let me. But if you go back and watch the playback, I explain it um, in the live for that day. So we were way up here, y'all. We were way up here at market open, and I knew when the 4 hour went. I started scanning the time frames to see where the closest EMA was or VWAP or some level that I wanted to touch. And that's why I like using the indicators because it tells me when that move happens that it's going to happen with speed. Um, I know some people don't like to use indicators, but I think the way that I got introduced to it and I understand how they move, especially like with ATR stuff, it just lets you know that when the move happens, it's going to happen quickly. So I knew it was the first move, and I jumped in at market open. I knew it was going to be risky because the difference between the limit order and the market order lets you get in the move right away, and I knew there was a risk with not being able to get my order filled right away with the limit order. But it got filled, and I held until we got to. I didn't quite see the VWAP, but I held right until we hovered around because I didn't want to get caught in a snapback. I jumped out at this fast CMA here, but we still had more downside, and this is why I have the fast and the slow SMA. Of the 200, I was like, I don't care. I'm gonna put both 200 levels on there, and you can see that in this case they went to the to this EMA right here before they decided to bounce. But you just have to practice risk management, and then just wait for the setup, and then you would have gotten confirmation to the downside. And you could have even like with the buy above sell below levels, you would have marked the level 838 285.21, which was 285. It's up here, 285. Ooh, it's much higher up. Yeah, I could have gotten in. Oh wait, going in the wrong way. 85, somewhere around here. You could have also held for confirmation below here, lining up with the 4 hour breakout, and then just really held your ground until the end of the day. So I hope that this is helpful for anybody who is going to be following with me and trading alongside with me. All right, signing off. Bye.